Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Lexa Peterson, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Kim Owen. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal Stanley Alexander Shumack, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Stanley Shumack was born in Queanbeyan, New South Wales on the 21st of January 1914. Known as Stan, he was one of 5 children born to Alexander and Amy Shumack. The Shumack family had settled in the Canberra region in the 1860s and were keen settlers and chroniclers of the area. The family homestead, Springvale, was constructed in the old Watangra parish in northern Canberra. Stan Shumack grew up in Watangra with his parents and sisters, including his twin sister Dorothy. He attended the local school before working as an assistant grazier, assisting his father at Springvale. As a child, Shumack suffered from polio, leaving one arm partially paralysed. He was very close with his family and frequently spent time with his young nephews at Coolaman property to the south of Canberra. Stan Shumack enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force in Canberra on the 22nd of April 1940. After a period of initial training, he was taken on strength of the 2nd 13th Battalion with the rank of private. Following a brief hospitalisation in September 1940 and a period of pre-embarkation leave in early October, he embarked from Australia on the 19th of October 1940, bound for the Middle East. After arriving in Egypt in November, the 2nd 13th Battalion travelled by train to Palestine. Here it continued to train at Kilo 89 camp near Gaza over the winter. In March 1941, the 2nd 13th Battalion moved to Serencia in Libya. On the 4th of April, it became the first complete Australian unit to fight German troops during the Second World War, during the Battle of Regima, before joining the rest of the 9th Division at Tobruk. Over the next 8 months, the battalion helped defend Tobruk, remaining until the siege was lifted in December 1941. While at Tobruk on the 10th of June, Shumack suffered gunshot wounds to his left arm and femur and was treated at the 1st Australian Convalescence Depot before returning to his battalion via Amaria. After the end of the siege of Tobruk, the 2nd 13th Battalion rejoined the 9th Division at Latika in Syria to undertake garrison duties. By July 1942, German and Italian forces had reached El Alamein in Egypt, around 110 kilometres from the British stronghold of Alexandria. While the British 8th Army reinforced and reorganised its forces to repel the Axis incursion, the 2nd 13th Battalion rushed to Alamein to hold the northern sector of Egypt. The battalion moved to Tel Alesia in early August, a railway siding just outside of El Alamein. It then fought in the Battle of El Alamein alongside other members of the 9th Division. The day before the end of fighting at El Alamein, Stan was evacuated to the 7th Australian General Hospital, suffering from infectious hepatitis. He spent the next month recovering in hospital before rejoining his battalion at Tobruk on the 11th of December. After 14 months in the Middle East, the 2nd 13th Battalion left Egypt in January 1943, returning to Australia to prepare to face the Japanese in the Pacific. Arriving in Sydney in late February, the members of the battalion were given a period of leave before travelling to Atherton Tablelands in Queensland for jungle training. Shumack's time in Queensland was eventful. He was admitted to the 2nd 3rd Casualty Clearing Station with an unknown illness in early June and admonished for neglecting to obey a routine order in early July. The 2nd 13th Battalion left Australia in late July, arriving at Milne Bay in Papua in late July 1943. It spent the next month undertaking exercises against the Japanese in the Milne Bay area before departing on landing craft in early September. During this period, Stan was promoted to Lance Corporal. On the 4th of September, the 2nd 13th Battalion landed on Red Beach, northwest of Lae, without casualties. Over the next 12 days, it carried out jungle operations against the Japanese until the fall of Lae on the 16th of September. Following the fall of Lae, the 2nd 13th Battalion was given instructions to land at Scarlet Beach near Finchhaven, tasked with helping defend the area against Japanese counterattack. The men boarded their landing craft after nightfall on the 21st of September and moved into position off the coast of Scarlet Beach. The naval barrage of enemy positions began just before 5 a.m, providing covering fire for the landing. The unit reports of the landing frequently referred to the disorganisation of the attack, irregular timings, landing off course, and heavy Japanese retaliatory fire, all affecting the ability of the battalion to land successfully and achieve its objectives. During the landing, Lance Corporal Stan Shumack was shot in the chest. Although evacuated to a nearby ambulance for treatment, his wounds proved fatal. He died on the 22nd of September 1943, his mother's 60th birthday. He was 29 years old. Once news of Stan's death reached Australia, tributes poured into the local newspapers from family and friends around Canberra. Although shy and quiet, he was very well liked by all, and his death was felt heavily by his friends and fellow residents of Witangra. After the war, the community raised money to create the Stan Shumack Memorial Library on youth leadership under the curatorship of the local YMCA. Stan's remains were initially buried in a temporary grave near Finchhaven before being moved to Finchhaven War Cemetery. His remains were then exhumed and reinterred at Lae Cemetery beneath the Commonwealth War Graves inscription selected by his grieving family. His duty nobly done. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal Stanley Alexander Shumack, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.